Good morning, everybody. Welcome in. This is your math class, your whole group math class. Today, we are going to be going over the study guide for Unit 1. And I'm doing that because you have it next week, and I will not be here on Monday of next week. So today is the last day that you will see me for math whole group until next Wednesday. And I think, let me look on your calendar what day your test is on next week. Yes, so your unit test that this is the study guide for is next Wednesday. And so that's why we're going over it today, so that you can have it. If you wanted to take it early, that's totally fine. And if you look at your calendar for me, you see that you have a study guide quiz for Unit 1 on the 27th. Well, guess what? Those are the exact same questions that we're working out today. We probably won't get through the entire study guide. We might, it just depends. But make sure that when you write on your Classkick, you write everything that I write. I'll probably write in, let's just say pink today, on your slides, because you can use your slides on your test. Okay. Do you need to sign up? Crystal, no. When you click on the link for Classkick, all you do is type in your first and last name, and then it will populate a copy for you. When is the final STAR testing? At the very end of the year, Zachary, so in May. Yeah. Alyssa, don't be scared for the unit test. The unit test is the literal exact same thing as the study guide that we're going over today. The only thing that is different is I changed the numbers, but you solve the problem the same way that we're going to solve the problems on this study guide. So if you take good notes on your study guide, there is no reason that you shouldn't make an A on the unit test. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started just for time's sake. If you have not already, at the top of the chat box is the Classkick link. You need to click on that, type in your first and last name to get your copy of the slides today. So y'all go ahead and do that. I'm going to move over to slide number 2, and you can do the same thing in Classkick. Now, before we get started, just a reminder, I am writing on the slides inside of our live session. Okay, so what that means is once I move to the next slide, it erases everything that I wrote. Okay, so make sure that you get all of your notes down before I go on to the next problem, or you're going to have to come back and watch the recording. Okay. What Charity, you need to be on your laptop. Anytime you come to class, you should always be on your laptop. I know certain things happen and we're traveling and stuff like that, but just in general, make sure that you're on your laptop for class. All right, let's do pink today. And so this is question number 1, slide number 2 on your study guide. Okay, so everybody should be on slide number 2 in the Classkick. If you're not, go ahead and click over. And if y'all hear something kind of rumbling, it is my little space heater that's beside me because I'm freezing. Okay. Again, if you're logging in late, click the Classkick link, type in your first and last name, and we're on slide number 2. All right. So question number 1 says, what equation represents the proportional relationship displayed in the table? So in this table, we have the x's on the top and we have the y's on the bottom. Now remember, when we're finding ratios and proportions, we want the unit rate. We always put the y on the top. So write that on your notes. Y over x. And that just means y divided by x. And I'm actually going to put equals y divided by x. Okay, y'all copy that down for me really quick. That's probably the most important thing that you need to know formula-wise for proportions. Okay, it feels a little weird because the y's are listed second, but they go on the top of your ratios to make a proportion. Okay, and it tells us right here that this is a proportional relationship. So since we already know that it's a proportional relationship, we only need to do one of these sets of numbers. Because if it's proportional, that means that all of them are going to equal the same thing. Okay, if they didn't equal all the same thing, it wouldn't be proportional. So let's take our y, which is right here on the bottom, and put it on the top. So that's 15 over 1, which if you divide that, of course, you would just get 15. Okay, so the answer is 15. Now, if you chose any of the other number pairs, 75 over 5, that also equals 15. 120 divided by 8 equals 15. 150 divided by 10 equals 15. But since we know that it's a proportional relationship, we just needed to do one. Okay, any questions on that one? I'll give you about 30 more seconds to copy down what I wrote, and then we're going to move on. Miss Johnson, is it cold where y'all are? Where you are? We can't hear you. It is here. And I'm not used to the cold. I'm used to the warmth. And my protein drink is disgusting this morning. It's just a big old double negative. Is it snowing on Friday? Alexis, I don't know. You know how crazy the weather is here. So sometimes it says it's a possibility of snow, and then on the actual day, it'll be like sunny and 72. So we got to wait till closer. All right, moving on to the next one. This is slide 3. You go ahead and move in your class kick. All right, number 2. Let me write the 2 at the top. Excuse me. This will be like number 2 on your test. It says a certain brand of coffee costs $6.99 for 24.2 ounces. What is the unit rate? Please enter your answer as the nearest cent, rounded to the nearest cent. So remember, and make this note on yours. You can use the text tool to write unit rate. Unit rate equals, and then get your pen, y over x. Now, they don't tell us here which one is the y and which one is the x, so we have to figure that out. So I'll give y'all a second to write that before I tell you how to do that.
I had my microphone muted on my keyboard and I could not figure out why it wasn't picking up.
No.
I fixed it, thank goodness.
Good. Okay, so unit rate's y over x. Now, you might be looking at this and thinking, well, which one is the y and which one is the x? Well, you kind of have to rationalize it in your head. So think back to when you're finding the unit rate, what you're really finding is how much per one. Okay, so for this question, we want to know how much it costs per ounce. And so the ounces are going to be on the bottom. Okay, so when we set that up, that's going to look like this. $6.99 over 24.2. Okay, $6.99 over 24.2, or if you want to think of it as a division problem, which is what we're about to do, that reads $6.99 divided by 24.2, however you want to write it. Okay, somebody tell me what you get rounded to the nearest cent when you divide $6.99 by 24.2. What do you get? Very good, Braylon. Mason, try that again. Type in 6.99 divided by 24.2. Good, Christian. Dwayne, almost. You left off one number to round. So when you type that in, you're going to get a long decimal. It's going to be like something like 0.288 and so on. I'm just going to put dot. Whoa. We'll put dot, dot, dot. That means it keeps going. It wants us to round to the nearest cent. Okay. So right now that says 28 cents, but since this number is an 8, we round the digit to the left up. So that's actually going to be 0.29 cents. Okay. And so B would be the correct answer there. Go ahead and write that down. I'll give you about 30 seconds. So just remember, when you have a word problem that you're finding the unit rate for, you have to figure out which one goes on the top, which one goes on the bottom. And typically when you're talking about money, that's almost always going to be on the top, because you're going to want to know how much it costs per something. All right, any questions on number 2 before we move on to number 3? Is anybody still writing? Ugh.
I was working out the problems before class, and I knew the answer to one, but I could not figure out how to get it. So even I get stumped sometimes. So it is okay.
Yes, for sure. One of these questions on the study guide, and I'll mention it if we get to it, it's towards the end. I was like, this does not make any sense at all, but then I had to rationalize it for myself. But at first glance, I was like, we're gonna have to change the question. This doesn't make any sense. It gets tricky for sure. All right, if there are no questions, let's move on. This will be slide number 4. But it is question number 3. So let me change this to a 3 up here. All right, and let's take a look at the question. It says, what is the value of m in this proportion? Enter your answer as a fraction in the simplest form in the box. So we've got 1/7 over 3/4 equals 1/6 over m. I'm just going to rewrite that right here so it's a little bit bigger, so that everybody can see it. So you rewrite it on yours. And y'all, you have plenty of room on these problems. You can keep scrolling down, and it's a whole white page. So you've got plenty of room. All right. Who knows what we do to solve proportions? 2 words I'm looking for. How do we solve proportions? Very good, Christian. Yes, we cross multiply. So we're going to cross multiply here like a big old X and here. Okay. 1/7 times m is easy because you just squish them together. That would be 1/7 m equals, now we need to solve this top one. So I'm gonna just draw an arrow over here. We've got 3/4 times 1/6. Y'all help me out. What would you get when you multiply 3/4 times 1/6? So remember, when you're multiplying fractions, you just go straight across the top and straight across the bottom. What would we get? Very good. 3 on the top. 3 times 1 is 3. 4 times 6 is 24. Okay, so 3/24. Now, can we simplify 3/24? Is there any number that divides into 3 and 24? If so, what is it? Very good. So we can divide the top by 3 and the bottom by 3. And we would get what? 3 divided by 3 is 1 on the top. 24 divided by 3 is 8 on the bottom. So now we need to bring this fraction down there into our problem. So here's how our, equation reads. 1/7 m equals 1/8. Okay, so now we've got an equation to solve. We're going to draw our line over the equal sign and get that m by itself. Where currently the m is being multiplied by 1/7 because they're squished right together. Good, Clint. To undo that, we need to divide. So over here, we're going to divide by 1/7, and it crosses it out over here. We're just left with m. Now, do we like to divide fractions? No. So what is that rule we can use to change it to a multiplication problem? Exactly. We use keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep 1/8, change to multiplication, and flip 1/7. So it becomes 7/1. Then we can just multiply straight across, and what would you get? Very good. 1 times 7 is 7. 8 times 1 is 8. So that is your final answer. Any questions on that one? I'm going to leave that up there for just a second. I know that was a little bit more writing than the other. If you have a question, just put it in the chat box. All right, let's move on. Anybody still writing? Anybody? Okay, I'll give it a couple more seconds. I see a couple people still writing. That's okay. All right, we're going to move on. You can always come back and watch the recording if you need to. Let's go to slide 5. This will be like number 4 on your test. All right, this one has a graph that we have to look at. It says the amount of salt in grams in a solution is proportional to the volume in liters of the solution as shown on the graph. So basically, all of that tells you that this graph is proportional. What is the unit rate in grams per liter? Okay, so we're trying to find unit rate. Go ahead and highlight unit rate. I gotta sneeze. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. Okay, so when you have a graph that is proportional, the easiest thing to do is to look along this line on the graph and see where it perfectly crosses over the X and Y axis. So you can see going up right here, none of that is right in the middle of two squares, but this point right here, that is right crossing over where 2 or actually 4 squares meet together. Okay. So you can take that point, which is going to be 410, if I wrote it like this. 410 is the coordinates. But remember, unit rate, and write this note on your paper if you don't remember it. Unit rate equals y over x. Okay, and your coordinates display the x first. So this is x and this is y. So to set up our unit rate problem, we need to do the 10 first on the top and the 4 on the bottom. That would be y over x. Okay. If any of you are logged in or if any of you logged in late, click on the ClassKick link for me at the top of the chat box. We're doing the study guide together. And you can use these notes on your test. So take good notes and you should do pretty well on your test. All right, so look at our answers over there. Are they in fraction form? No. So guess what we need to do? Divide. So somebody divide that for me. What is 10 divided by 4? Very good. It is 2.5. And that is the correct answer.
since it's proportional, can you use the 6 and the 15 as well to double check? Or can you use that initially and not have to find where it crosses the graph?
You can, yeah. It's just I hate telling kids that because, like, when the graph is not proportional and they do give you the
Right.
point, they get in the habit of using the coordinates that they give you. So yes, you totally can. Since this graph is proportional, you could use the plot that they gave you, which is 6/15. However, just make sure that when you're doing that the graph is proportional. So it says it right here that it is. But if it doesn't tell you that the graph is proportional, don't just use the plot that they gave you. But yes, for this one, you could have used it. All right, any questions on that one? Is anybody still writing? All right, moving on. This is going to be slide 6, number 5. All right, this question says the variables y and x have a proportional relationship. That's very important. So let's highlight that. So they are proportional. That's good. And y equals 15 when x equals 3. What is the value of x when y equals 4? Well, you might be thinking, gosh, that's a lot of numbers. But let's set up our unit rate first, or our rate, not unit rate, from what they gave us. So they gave us right here both the y and the x. Okay. And which one goes on the top, x or y? Very good. Y over x. So using that, we're going to put the y, which is 15, over the x, which is 3. Okay, so that's one ratio that we have. Then we want to make a proportion with another ratio. So let's write equals, and then use this information that they gave us. So the question says, what is the value of x? So we're trying to find the x. So you can go ahead and write the x on the bottom because we don't know what it is. When y equals 4. So there they told us the y is 4. Okay, so copy that down. That is the problem that we need to solve. All right, anybody know what we're going to do? How do we solve proportions? How do you solve a proportion? Very good, Annabelle. Yes. Cross multiply. So 15 times x is just 15x equals 3 times 4, which is 12. Okay, so there's our equation. 15x equals 12. Now we need to get that the x by itself. How do we do that? How do we get that x by itself? Very good. So when we draw our line, we can see that the 15 is currently being multiplied by the x. To undo that, we need to divide by the x. All right, so y'all tell me what you get. Type in your calculator 12 divided by 15, and what do you get? And Ms. Johnson, in that that shared drive, I put the document where I worked these problems out, if that's helpful.
Yeah, it is. I also worked them out, so I think I got them right. Fingers crossed. I'll double check.
Okay, cool. All right. That is correct, 0.8. Y'all make sure when you are typing division problems in your calculator, the order that you type it in is very important. Okay, if you would have typed in 15 divided by 12 in your calculator, you would have got a totally different answer. And I can probably bet that it's one that's listed. 15 divided by 12. It is 1.25. So the order is very important. Whatever number comes first is the number that you need to type in first. Okay, any questions on number 5? Is there anybody still writing? All right, I'll give you just a minute. All right, about 10 more seconds. All right, moving on. This is slide 7. Will be number 6 on your test. This is just a true or false question. It says all of the y values are not, I'm going to highlight that, are not a constant multiple of the corresponding x values. So the relationship is not proportional. What do y'all think? Is that true or false? What do we know about tables that makes them proportional? Interesting. Why do y'all think it's false? Let me ask you this first. How do we know if this table up at the top is proportional or not? How would you figure that out? Yes. If all of these were the same when you divided them, the table would be proportional. If they are all the same, guess what that's called? A constant multiple. Exactly. I see some of you putting in the chat box. So since all of these are the same, they are a constant multiple, it is proportional. If they were not the same, it would not be proportional. So that means this is true. The statement is true. It says if they are not constant, it is not proportional, which is true. If it is constant, it is proportional.
If they all equal the same, how is the can you elaborate a little bit more on this one?
So the let me divide these. 55 divided by 1 is of course 55. 110 divided by 2. I don't think the table is necessary, to be honest with you. That's 55. 165 divided by 3 is 55. 220 divided by 4 is 55. So this table is proportional. Does that answer your question? It's not in any relation with the statement that was made. It's actually the opposite.
I think that's where they're getting confused on that the table is proportional, but the statement has not proportional in it.
Exactly. Honestly, we don't even need this table to ask this question because it's just a hypothetical question. So the question that it's asking, Bethany, is saying if the table was not constant, would the values not be proportional? That is true. The example that's shown, which I don't know why, is proportional, if that makes sense. But that's not what it's asking you. It's not asking you anything about this table up at the top. So really, if you want to, on your paper, just draw a line like this. Okay, this is the question that is important. It doesn't ask you, is the table proportional? Yes, Bethany. So it's not proportional if they're not constant. It is proportional if they are constant. The example here is proportional. The answer to the question that they ask you is true. As long as you guys know how to determine if a table is proportional or not, you're good. Clint, it does make sense if you separate the two. So totally ignore this table at the top and just focus on the question that they're asking you. I don't know why that is there. I wonder if this question is on their test.
I was about to say, as for mine, and if you have a small group, this I don't think I put a question like this on their test. So it is important to know it, but don't stress too much.
Yes, the important thing is to know how to determine if the tables that you're given are proportional or not. And if you know how to do that, then you're good. Okay, let me see. What number is this? 6. It's 5. Yes. Okay. So there is a question like this on your test. However, the only thing you need to know is this. I'll write it down here for you. So a table is proportional if, let me see how they word it. Whoops. If the y values are constant. Okay. Is proportional if they are constant. I'm going to highlight those two words. Is proportional if they are constant. The other one is not proportional if the y values are not constant. Okay, so is not proportional if they are not constant. So is if they is, not if they not. That's the only thing you need to know for that question. Okay, make sure you copy down what I just typed out. That will help you answer number 6 since it's a little weird. All right, about 10 more seconds. We're going to move on. All right, let's move on from that crazy question. This is slide 8, which is going to be like number 7 on your test. And we've got another graph here. This graph, well, let me read it first. The amount of a medicine in milliliters that a veterinarian prescribes is proportional. That's important. Let's highlight that. It is proportional to the weight in kilograms of a dog as shown on the graph. So that means our graph is proportional. That's good. What is the unit rate? We'll highlight that too. That's what we need to find. What is the unit rate of milliliters per kilogram? Okay, so since this is proportional, we can use this point that they gave us. Okay, same thing though, your unit rate needs to be y over x. So I'm going to put y over x. And remember, in your coordinates, x comes first, x and then y. So to set that up, we put 14 over 8. And look at your answer choices. Are they in fraction form or decimal form? They're in decimal form. So 14 divided by 8, and tell me what you get. Millie, at the top of your highlighter, let me just show you real quick. It'll be easier to. Do this one. And I wonder if that's going to take this off of here.
More than likely.
I bet it is.
Because you have to close it.
Yeah, Millie, I'll show you after this question. But if you're on your highlighter, like if you've already clicked on your highlighter, on the right-hand side of your toolbar, there'll be like 3 lines that are different thicknesses. If you click on that, you can change the thickness of your highlighter. Okay, let's see here. Oh, where did my questions go? Hang on, y'all. Okay, I know I just uploaded this. Where is it at? Did I do it to the wrong? 111. Written spring. No. It's crazy. Sorry, I'm having to re-upload this. Okay, there it is now. All right, sorry about that. We are, yes, y'all are right in the chat box. 1.75. All right, give you a second on that one. We probably, let me see what the next question is. This next question is the one that I was like, what in the world is happening?
Same. This is the one that got me. I think I had to work it out like 3 times.
It's crazy.
But it finally made sense. It's like I know the answer. I just needed to figure out the steps how to get there.
Same. Yeah. Well, not even that. Like I could get there, but I couldn't rationalize how to explain it to them in a way that made sense.
Yeah.
So we
Lots
we
of
got there.
things.
Yes. And also there are two different ways that you can solve that problem depending on what you like to do. So okay. Going on to the next problem. This will be our last problem for today. This is slide 9. This will be like number 8 on your test. All right. So this question says, Susan walked 1/4 mile in 1/6 of an hour. How long will it take Susan to walk 2.5 miles? Enter your answer as a mixed number in simplest form. Okay, so the first thing that we can do is easy. We know we're going to need to change that 2.5 to an improper fraction to work with all fractions. So let's do that first. So right over here, 2.5 equals what? What improper fraction does that equal? And y'all, I'm turning the chat box on. Sorry that I did not do that. I'm crazy. Yes, 2.5 equals 5/2. Okay, so we've got that converted. We will need that in just a second. Now, let's think about this for a second. It says she walked 1/4 of a mile in 1/6 of an hour. So we need to use those two numbers to create our first ratio. Okay. Now, when you're using or when you're thinking about how far did she walk in 1 hour, that would mean you need the hours on the bottom of your ratio. Okay. Because when you're finding unit rate, that's what the ultimate goal is, to find out how much per 1. Okay. So we're going to set our first ratio up like this. It's going to be 1/4, which is the distance, over the time, which is 1/6 of an hour. Okay, so we've got miles on the top, hours on the bottom. Thank you, Grayson. Sometimes I think I am. Let me delete that because that looks like 2 numbers. Okay, 1/4 over 1/6. Now let's write equals and make it a proportion. Okay. The thing that they give us in the second part of this problem is 2.5 miles. Now, in the first ratio, were the miles on the top or were they on the bottom? Miles. On the top. See right here, 1/4 mile and 1/4 is on the top. That means since 2.5 represents miles, it needs to be on the top. And we've already changed it to an improper fraction. So let's use the improper fraction on the top. Okay, 5/2. Now, on the bottom for x, for the amount of time, that's what we're looking for. So we're going to use a variable. I'm going to use x. Okay, so now we have created a proportion. Okay, and how do we solve proportions? Y'all tell me, how do we solve proportions? Very good. We cross multiply. So let me change colors here. We're going to cross multiply 1/4 x. That gives us 1/4 x equals, then we have 1/6 times 5/2. And I'm going to draw a little arrow. We're going to work this out over here before we add it to our problem. So we have 1/6 times 5/2, or 5/2. Okay, somebody multiply straight across and tell me what you get here. 1 times 5 on the top is what? 5. Very good. And 6 times 2 on the bottom, good, is 12. Now we can plug that into our problem over here. One-fourth x equals 5/12. Okay, now we need to solve. Draw your line over your equal sign. We need to get the x by itself. KJ, if you have a question, ask it in the chat, please. So currently 1/4 is being multiplied times x. We need to do the opposite, which is to divide. So if we divide both sides by 1/4, it cancels out over here and we're left with x. Now, what rule do we need to use to change that division to multiplication? Very good. Keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep 5/12, change to multiplication, and flip 1/4. It becomes 4/1, and now we can solve. Okay, on the top, what's 5 times 4? 20, very good. And then on the bottom, 12 times 1 is, of course, 12. Now, what's the last thing we need to do here since we have an improper fraction? You could simplify, but how do we turn improper fractions into mixed numbers? Exactly, Kimball, long division. So draw your division tent. 20 divided by 12. How many times can 12 go into 20? Just once, good. That's 12. When we subtract that, what are we left with? 8. Okay, so your mixed number would be 1 8/12. However, you can simplify 8/12 by dividing by what? 4. Very good. So let's divide by 4 on the top and on the bottom. And you keep your 1 the same. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So your final answer is 1 2/3. Right there. Okay, I'm going to leave this up. You're welcome to copy as long as you need. We have a couple minutes left in class. However, if you are finished, whenever you finish writing this down, I would suggest in Classkick that you download or export your notes that you took today to your computer so that when you go to take your unit test, you can use these. And also when you go to take your bonus quiz for the study guide, they're the exact same questions. So I know we didn't get through the last 2, but you can do those by yourself. You do have the first 8 done for you. So to export, if you don't know how to export from Classkick, when you're in Classkick, in the top left-hand corner, there'll be like a little person icon. You click on that one and then click Export to PDF, and then it'll pop up a little window, and then click the green Export button. Yes, the recording will be posted in about 30 minutes.